She sniffed a little and caught heather on the breeze. Classic Scotland right there. It's just like I imagined, she thought. Ruby wondered what other Scottish stereotypes would prove to be true. She hoped the one about strapping, bearded men who guzzled whiskey and whispered sweet nothings was. But maybe she had just been watching too much Outlander. Her mind trotted past the image of a sexy Scot kissing her against a pile of oak barrels to Benjamin. She immediately cringed. Nope, mustn't think about Benjamin here. The man had occupied far too much of her brain space for far too long. The breeze picked up again, and Ruby was pulled into the present. She reached for the sweater she'd tied around the duffel straps and slipped it over her head. It was cream-colored and cable-knit, long in the sleeves, and reached halfway down her thighs, but it was soft and comfortable, perfect in the way that favorite sweaters always are. She looked around and drank in the scene. There was a massive stone hearth, almost large enough to hold the height of her 5-foot-2-inch frame. The fireplace dwarfed the rest of the cottage, or perhaps anchored it? Hard to say. It was big. Directly across from the door, Ruby saw a dusty window held together by thin timber muntins. One of the glass panes was missing and was nailed over with a wood board. This was the sort of thing that would have driven her mad in Manhattan, an injustice that would have had her hollering at her landlord for a replacement and reduction in rent. But she was in Scotland, so now it was charming, and she didn't have to be angry about it. In front of the window sat a bed to rival the hearth. It was made from wood, like every other piece of furniture in the cottage, with an enormous head and footboard and thick posts for legs. It looked like it weighed a ton. 2 tons? Numbers were not Ruby's strong point. The mattress was covered in a white sheet and a worn velveteen green quilt that looked about 1 trillion years old. Again, super charming, because Scotland. Spread across the quilt at the foot of the bed was a real sheep's pelt. Ruby touched it with her fingertips and brought them up to her nose. She could smell the lanolin. There were plenty of pillows, both functional and furry, piled against the headboard, giving the whole bed a look that was at once soft and wild. Ruby kicked off her shoes and flopped onto the mattress. It was surprisingly comfortable, although she would have dealt with it no matter what. Having sold all her earthly possessions and moved across an ocean, she didn't have much room to be picky about details like beds and mattresses. On the other side of the cottage, pushed up against the stonework, was a small writing desk and minuscule chair. A tapestry throw was artfully draped over the desk. On top of that, a tapered candle in a brass holder and a delicate vase holding a few yellow cowslips. Ruby reached off the bed and rummaged in her duffel bag for her dictionary, which, okay, yes, she had brought a dictionary in her carry-on luggage, and yes, she realized 10 minutes into her wait at the security check that it had been a monumental and monumentally heavy mistake. The thing of it was, Ruby really wanted to make a fresh start here, not just to write a cookbook, but to become the sort of person she wished she was. The sort of person she never got around to becoming in New York. The sort of person who, when reading novels and encountering a word she didn't know, looked it up in an actual dictionary, rather than grabbing her phone and Googling meaning of alacrity or whatever. To be clear, not the sort of person who immediately exited the Dictionary.com app and spent the next 45 minutes blacking out on Instagram's Explore tab. Not naming any names, but ugh. Ruby's life had become very stale and very uninspiring over the course of the last few years. The dictionary felt like, what? A reminder of that intention? Sure, let's go with that. Anyway, she placed the dictionary, Oxford, not Merriam-Webster, because Scotland, on the writing desk. There, transformation complete. She was now a calm and stable human who could do hard and good things, like move to the UK in her mid-30s and learn new words.